name is Dr. Ebenezer Ariyibi. I'm a consultant family physician and I work at the Federal Teaching Hospital, Ekiti, at the Department of Family Medicine of the hospital. I am, by God's grace, the current chairman of Nigerian Medical Association Ekiti State for the year 2020 to 2022, during which NMA Ekiti State is clocking 25 years of existence.
The Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, founded in 1960, is the umbrella organization for all medical and dental professionals in Nigeria who are registered and licensed to practice. The association represents its members' interests, promotes health and allied sciences, and aids in the development of national policies and legislation aimed at improving the health of Nigerians. With over 40,000 members from 36 state branches and the FCT, the NMA is the largest medical association in the West African sub-region. In 2022, members of the Ekiti State branch of the Nigerian Medical Association celebrated 25 years of the association's existence. The NMA Ekiti chapter was established in 1996 after the creation of Ekiti State from former Ondo states.
I'm Dr. Adegoke Benjamin Holamide. I'm Publicity Secretary, NMA Ekiti State. I'm a psychiatrist in the Department of Psychiatry, Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital.
I'm Dr. Oluwayemi Ayodeji, the General Secretary, Ekiti State NMA.
This documentary is to showcase the rich culture, history, homogeneity of our members in making NMA the best we can have as at now. You will see the energetic and visionary leadership style in this documentary, which is being led by Dr. Ariyibi Ebenezer Olukayode.
As far as I know, the NMA was started about 1960 when I was still a medical student, through the efforts of people like the late Professor J. Oluma Bayoje, who was the first Secretary General, as far as I can remember. There may have been people before him. But when I graduated in 1962, there were not all these ceremonies of swearing in and Nigerian Medical Council coming in. You just wrote your exams. It was a London exam. Then you got your results. You send it by post to the registrar, who then issued you with your temporary license. It was all done by post. As the chairman of what was then called the 3O states, Ogun, Oyo, Ondo states, it was my privilege to see the starting point of the Nigerian Medical Associations in the various units. That is, Ogun State in Abeokuta, Oyo State, where I became chairman of the Oyo State branch, and then Ondo State, which was my own state at that time.
In year 1994, 1995, those of us working with the state government decided to take over the Nigerian Medical Association from the private practitioners, not knowing that Ekiti State will soon be created 2 years after. We took over. One of us, Dr. C.A. Ayeni, became the chairman. I became the second vice chairman. There was an Ondo person who was the first vice chairman.
NMA Ekiti State started functioning almost immediately after the creation of states on October 1st, 1996, when the late General Abacha created the state. Incidentally, it was an Ekiti man that was NMA chairman of Ondo State then. So when the Ekiti State was carved out of Ondo State, we quickly rallied around and decided to continue NMA activities as Ekiti now.
I was one of the first set of people to move from Ondo State to Ekiti State, because we realized that East or West, home is the best. And we are very happy that the state was created. That is what brought us down to Ekiti State by the creation of the state in 1996.
The then NMA chairman from Ondo State became our chairman, Dr. Ayeni, our chairman here in Ekiti State. So we have to support him. About 18 of us came with him down to Ekiti State. Then we had what we call unity. We are all one. When you see other sector knows that they are doctors, because once we have that kind of unity, but wherever you enter, they know these are people that they know themselves. We were bombarded with struggle. Here and there, we are fighting here to make sure that at least we make NMA, to bring NMA up to a position that, okay, everyone will see that these people are doing well.
There are a lot of suffering along the road. Intimidation by the civil servants, intimidation by poverty. Because what was our earning there as a doctor? I was a level 16 officer when we were coming. And I know as a family man, it's not enough to cater for me unless I run a private clinic. So we came down here poor. There were not many private hospitals in town. We give thanks to God, and people like Gregory Hospital was a very good supporter. Then before Dr. Agbeiro, he was a commissioner for health there, and he was supportive.
Yes, when Ekiti was formed, I was already commissioner in Ondo State, but I wasn't commissioner of health. I was commissioner of special duties. When we arrived in Ekiti State in 1996, I became the commissioner of health.
By 1996, when we came down, two of us now decided that, okay, let's start the NMA. That is from October 1996. He was serving as the chairman. I was serving as both the vice chairman and the secretary. And my office became the NMA Secretariat of Ekiti State. We call it dental headquarters. It was not really the headquarters, but that description will make somebody who is looking for the NMA house easier to find.
I did my house job in Ekiti here, the State Specialist Hospital, where that was just about a year after the creation of Ekiti State. And the aspect of that internship that I never forgot was the fact that when I wanted to apply for internship in 1997, I had gone to State Specialist Hospital Akure to apply. And when trying to submit the form at the HMB, the then permanent secretary has refused to collect the form, asking that we should go back to Ekiti State. That after all, the state has been created for us, and we shouldn't bother them anymore with agitation to take part of their space. So I returned back to Ado Ekiti that same day, went to our HMB, submitted a letter for application, and I was appointed.
Well, we started, but by February 1997, we had an official meeting where Ayeni was acclaimed to be the chairman. I became the vice chairman, and we elected a secretary then, Dr. Aladiloye, because I was serving as the secretary. We had to hand over to him. But later, some months later, he became a director in the Ministry of Health. I had to take over from him again as the secretary.
was NMA chairman in Ondo State at the time we were coming. So automatically, I will say an extended chairman to Ekiti.
I was elected, at least the second NMA chairman after him in Ekiti State. And that happened in 1997. And I had a two-term tenure. I was re-elected 1998 to 1999.
We are the first set of people to set off to inaugurate the Nigerian Medical Association Ekiti State in 1997, formally. And all through, we have been involved in different posts as the Secretary of Nigerian Medical Association of the state, as the first Vice Chairman of the association, then to the Chairman of the association year 2004-2005.
I joined Nigerian Medical Association in the year 1998 as a young house officer then at the Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital. Formerly, there was formerly State Specialist Hospital at Ekiti, now Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital. By year 2008, I was elected as the chairman of Nigerian Medical Association. I took over from Dr. Tunde Aladesami of blessed memory.
A former chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association in Ekiti State from year 2010 to 2012. Interestingly, I had been with NMA Ekiti almost right from its inception.
I've been a member of NMA Ekiti since 2008. I was actively involved at the State Executive Council for 4 years initially, and in 2012, I rose up to become the chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association, Ekiti State chapter.
And as a member of NMA, my colleagues wanted me to be in the mainstream, because at that time, the NMA was like a hierarchical kind of a thing, because NMA was the only association in Ekiti State. And so I was a second vice chairman, best vice chairman, before I became the NMA chairman.
I'm the 12th chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association Ekiti State. I'm a pathologist. I work with Ekiti State University and Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital. I'm the head of Department of Anatomy Pathology at both Ekiti State University and the Teaching Hospital.
When I took over the leadership of Nigerian Medical Association, there was not too much structure on ground, and it occurred to me that for us to be able to work effectively as an association, we need a document that will guide us. And that made me to start the process of putting together a bylaw for the association. If we consider a committee that work on the bylaw, that we still operate in Nigerian Medical Association today. And that was actually the first thing that I embarked upon, because I know definitely, I knew then that we need to have a document that will help us to operate the association properly. And then my executive members were, I have Dr. Ibitoye initially as my first secretary, although along the line he was replaced by Dr. Ibrahim in Federal Teaching Hospital in Ekiti. Dr. Reyemi Ifedayo was the treasurer of the association. I had Dr. Oshatimi as the social secretary of the association then. I have a very good relationship with my ESCO member. We worked as a team, and that actually produced the success recorded during the tenure.
And on members' front, we were able to reach out to members, visited our affiliates, at their workplaces, and we're able to draw, get increase in participation from members. And the membership we met on ground was barely around 400. By the time we were leaving office, we've been able to co-opt more people, especially those institutions where, they are not paying dues by direct deduction from salaries. Like the Polytechnic, Federal Poly, Ado Health Center, the Ekiti State University Health Centers. So we're able to draw the doctors there into the fold of the NMA.
Right in front of me is a copy of our letterhead paper for that tenure, and I was the chairman. So we had a very robust relationship, but that time we were only having executive and general meetings. It was when we had the influx of you guys from the teaching hospitals that we now had the introduction of SOC or SEC. We were mainly at that time we used to talk about executive meetings and general meetings. But later, when we had many doctors coming down to Ekiti State with ideas from other teaching hospitals, then we started having a state executive council. So, but we were able to manage the association because of the cooperation amongst the ESCO members. And because NMA was virtually the only association for doctors at that time, no affiliates. No affiliates. So we were able to champion our request to the government, and we were able to cooperate very well. And the government found it difficult to even break our ranks, because all those days when we used to struggle for the appointment of doctors as permanent secretaries, for implementation of federal government circulars, the government tried so much to break our ranks in the association, but because of our cooperation and solidarity, they found it difficult.
Everything that happened during my tenure, I will want to appeal that I don't want to use the word I, because I didn't work alone. We work as a team with members of my SOC, and of course I enjoyed tremendous support from them. And I would like to say that during my tenure as chairman, I made the best out of the existing and statutory organs of the association, like the State Officers Committee and the State Executive Council.
25 years ago was not easy. We were intimidated by the civil service. We had the military governor then, so whatever the civil servant told him is what he heard. There was no single doctor who was made a PS. I fought to Tane before they were making us a PS.
And we found out that we were nowhere in the hospital's management board. In fact, there was no doctor employed to work in the hospital's management board, in the core management board. We had to fight for this. Then the permanent secretary also in the Ministry of Health, in the hospital management board, were administrative officers. We had to react against this. You could see some of the papers I was showing you. I were trying to fight for that. We got it some months later when some of our senior colleagues were made PS, directors and so on. And as from today, we've been enjoying that. That's one of the successes we had between 1996 and 2002.
Actually, the building, the NMA building as we have it along Guinea Road, actually started before my tenure. We inherited the land and an uncompleted building from my predecessor, Dr. Aladisami. Dr. Aladisami had been in the saddle with Dr. Oguntoye, and we had the land bought during that period. But when we came in, And because we were not comfortable in the flat that we were using before, we had to make effort to move to the new building. We then created, we were paying a due, a due of I think about 1,000 naira per doctor in Ekiti State. Now we created an additional 1,000 naira strictly meant for that building. And an account was opened that I think in Zenith Bank, essentially for the additional money added to the dues of the doctors, strictly for the building. And we also met a building committee headed by Dr. Aditade, and we continued with that committee. We reinvigorated the committee because the committee now, during our tenure, had a separate account that could be used for the purpose of the building. And with that, we were able to complete the mini conference. That was the first phase of the NMA house. And we laid the foundation because then we now divided the NMA building into 3 phases. So we completed the NMA, the first phase. We made it into a befitting mini conference. And I know we had the first meeting, the first SEC meeting. By then, we have actually divided the association into by the bylaw that we had the SEC in place. There was no issue of SEC before, but we now put a SEC in place at that time. So we now have SEC, that is State Executive Council, that will meet on weekly basis to deliberate. Aside from that, we also have the SOC, that is State Officer Council. That one has been on, the executive were meeting before, but we now put the head and the SEC, an expanded SOC that will include, or that included, and up to today still includes all other affiliates, the heads of other affiliates, the chairmen and secretaries of other affiliates, like MD Khan, AGPNPN, NAG-MDP, or ERD, all of them were brought in together as SEC. And we also, in our document, with the other, the head of institutions, were also included in that State Executive Council, and some past officers of the association. And we had the first SEC meeting inside our mini conference in December of 2009. And it was a serious celebration that day that we could get that.
And the foundation laying ceremony was conducted with fanfare, not without some itches though, because we had to visit the palace of Oloyin of Ekiti to, settle with the families from where we got, this parcel of land. And this story will also not be completed without mentioning people like the late Dr. Alade Somi, who actually did a lot of work to secure the land.
We had a lot of issue. The land generated a lot of issue between the people that sold the land to us. At a point, the major issue was that the frontage of the land, which is supposed to be like a setback to the high tension wire, the owners of the land, they sold it and they wanted to build on it. And then it was a serious concern to us. So we had to contact the KBAC, the Oloyin of Ekiti, His Royal Majesty, retired Chief Judge Ajakaye. And he had a small palace court. I remember that I attended the palace court about 23 times. before we were finally giving we were finally giving the land. So they told those people that we should pay them some money, and then we were able to raise a loan of 400,000 naira, and we paid them off.
When we were sworn in, one of the teething challenges facing the association then was that the association has no vehicle, and because of that, not only as a means of transportation, but of course something that will boost the image of the association. And during my campaign, I made a promise that if I become the chairman, that the association will buy a vehicle without additional contribution by our members. And of course, we try our best to fulfill that promise. If I have to look back, during my own tenure, one of the challenges I had was that there is this pay disparity, remuneration disparity among Ekiti doctors, most especially our colleagues that work at the primary and secondary healthcare facilities. They are poorly paid because there are some allowances that they are supposed to be paid that they are not paid. And of course, it is one of the things that cause disharmony between NMA Ekiti under my leadership and the state government. Unfortunately, that issue still remains unsolved.
I recall the day we went to have a meeting with Yusuf. When I told him there was no single doctor in the whole of, what they call it, health management board then, he didn't believe it. And I told him that is the fact, you can send somebody to go and find out. It was after that meeting, in fact within a week after that meeting we had in the governor's office, that the first director of medical services was appointed for the hospital's management board. And that was in the person of Dr. C.A. Oladele. As at the time the state was created, no such thing existed at all.
We've also had periods in which we had to negotiate our allowances. It's never been an easy task, a bit of betrayal, a bit of disappointment, but by and large, I think the leadership were able to weather the storm quite appreciably.
During our tenure, we came to office at a point when NMA Ekiti was facing challenges ranging from disgruntled participation from members, and also poor welfare package, because you recall that the common salary structure which we enjoy today came into being in 2009, and in Ekiti we have staggered enjoyment of this new salary structure. Then the people at the federal institution, notably the IDO, Federal Medical Center, then they key in immediately because they are working for federal government, while people at the Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital, people working with the state government under the auspices of Hospital Management Board, and doctors working at the primary healthcare level, that's the Association of Medical Officers of Health, who are not enjoying this commerce. So while in Exudes in 2010, shortly before Governor Shegoni left office, we started enjoying this commerce.
Well, we've had challenges just like we will experience in a new state. Most of the doctors at that time, while the other divide of the old Ondo State, the Kare, Owo, Ondo, Akure. So we only had limited number of medical practitioners in this divide, which Ekiti is. And then, for example, at that time in the State Specialist Hospital, I think we had roughly maybe about 10 or 12 doctors in the whole hospital at that time. So there was at least scarcity of personnel at that time?
Well, to be frank, NMA has always had to kind of struggle against the tide. But I must commend the team. We have evolved to be a bit more professional in our engagements. I recall, first and foremost, when we started to ask for the leadership of the health sector. It never used to be. We had more of general administrators lead the policy arm of health in Ekiti State. And NMA stood up to say, no, we wanted doctors to lead. We're able to achieve that with Dr. Joe Yelake becoming the first medical permanent secretary in Ekiti State, closely followed by Dr. Oladile of blessed memory, Dr. Fasumade. All those are medical elders. So I think that was a major feat that NMA went through and succeeded.
When I first came into service, I worked with the teaching hospital. Then it was the State Specialist Hospital before it transited into the Ekiti State Teaching Hospital. I can remember way back then that there was epileptic power supply, there was irregular water supply, and even the welfare of the health workers, not just the doctors, but the health workers, was poor, and the working condition was poor. And equipment, I can remember then that in our theatre, we hardly had boots that we could wear for surgical procedures. But all that over time, with administrations that have shown interest in a health sector, improving it, they've changed it, and a lot has improved.
If you come to the level of the association itself, the NMA at the initial stage lacked funding because the members were so few. And, payment of dues by members of the NMA was also a problem. And also we had problems with the government, which were challenges for the association. Our association had to go on strikes on so many, on industrial action so many times, while we were fighting for appointments, in government, because in the past, the government did not even recognize doctors, for appointment into the position of permanent secretaries. So it was a long battle between the association and the government.
In terms of implementation of medical salary structure, it's a special skill, and it's really an envy to those in government service who are non-medical, because they feel that doctors are more privileged and are taken care of more. But notwithstanding, we have to mobilize our members to remain focused so that it can impress on the government. We also move within the bureaucrats, the non-medical personnel, making them realize that doctors have more duties to perform than the non-medicals. And that by making the doctors more comfortable, then the life of the general public can be safeguarded.
You've got doctors in the state, you've got doctors in the teaching hospital in Ado, you've got doctors here and of recent, in Abroad. Now harmonizing our plans, harmonizing, our activities in ensuring that we present that common front to drive what we have is, for me, a major challenge.
When we first came into Ekiti State, it's not the kind of healthcare delivery that we have now that we had then. Then when we came in, at the creation of Ekiti State, I think there was only a tertiary institution then, that was Federal Medical Center, Ido Ekiti. And the Federal Medical Center, Ido Ekiti, was at its infancy then. And even when we were having our residency training in Ife, we had a lot of patients from Ekiti State that were being referred to Ile-Ife for care. In fact, a lot of them will be stranded. Notably, among one of the patients was somebody that I knew who came to Ife for a procedure, and he was returning home and started bleeding along the at Ijebu-Jesha, and they had to rush him back to Ife again. And seeing some of these things and looking at what we have today, then definitely the Ekiti State healthcare delivery has come of age.
25 years after, we have tertiary care prominent in our health system. We have our specialist hospitals domiciled with specialists in their core areas. At least the State Specialist Hospital in Ekiti can now train house officers, medical house officers. I know that Ikole is also fledgling with additional specialists. That to me is a major leap in the quality of healthcare. We've been able to expand healthcare up to tertiary level.
In 2001, we had 3 additional state specialist hospitals created under the regime of Dr. Jimmy Oke as chairman of the board. In Ekere, Ijiro, and Ekole. The general hospitals that there were upgraded to state specialist hospital, and about 7 other general hospitals were established. Then we had cause to tell and fight and agitate that state specialist hospitals are created without any specialist there. But again, today is a complete turnaround. All those specialist hospitals now have consultants working therein.
The only hospital that was in existence before General Adebayo became governor should be the General Hospital Edo Ekiti, which has now transformed to the Federal Teaching Hospital Edo Ekiti. Most of the other hospitals, including the State University Teaching Hospital now that was formerly State Specialist Hospital, were created during its time. And of course, this impacted positively in the healthcare delivery of Ekiti people. And of course, various leaders after that have tried their own best to make sure that they contribute positively to the improvement of these healthcare facilities, to the extent that what used to be a local general hospital has now turned out to be a teaching hospital providing tertiary specialist care.
The Federal Teaching Hospital, it was formerly called the Federal Medical Center. Then, Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital. So those are as a result of the creation of the states, which made it available that we have all these facilities on ground. So we have qualified doctors, consultants, registrars, medical officers, and doctors are going for training from time to time.
Between 2000 and 2008, 8 years, in terms of infrastructures, that you have got a lot, in terms of health personnel, also we had a lot of improvement.
It's been a very interesting thing to watch the development of healthcare delivery in Ekiti State. From a time when there was only one, as far as I remember, doctor, a missionary doctor in Ile-Abiye. I think there was also subsequently 1 or 2 doctors in Maria Assumpta, which was started in what is now the cathedral area of the Ibadan before it, Ado Ekiti, before it moved to its present site. And of course the government. There's no doubt that there has been tremendous change, and most especially since the last 25 years that the state was created. I think all the participants in this action deserve to be praised and to be encouraged. 30 years ago, there was no NMA Ekiti. 25 years ago, it started in small measure, and now there's nobody who will say he doesn't know there's NMA in Ekiti. The numbers have increased. The hospitals have gotten more. This was what I first noted when I was appointed provost. there is a specialist hospital in Ijero, was being primed to become a cardiac center of some sort. There is one in Ikere, and I think the fourth one was supposed to be in Ikole. I physically went and saw all of these places that did not exist so many years before. For example, the presence of Federal Medical Center, which is now FETI, has made very pronounced and very profound differences to services in this area. And also, of course, the setup and the opening of Afebawala University Multi-System Hospital is one of the top-ranked hospitals that you can have it anywhere in the world, has made a significant difference.
Ekiti State is blessed with what I call good coverage services, or good coverage of healthcare services as compared to a number of other states. If you look at our immunization service, as at today, we're about 93%. If we look into our skilled birth delivery, we're doing fairly well as well. And then if you look into some of the other coverage levels as well, we're doing pretty great. But that doesn't mean that we cannot do more. There are several people who still need access to care, but not just any kind of care of the right quality. And as a state within, which is one of the sub-national within the Nigerian entity that is focused on achieving universal health coverage, our goal is to make sure that as many people as possible out of the 3.6 million persons in the state are properly covered to be able to access care in a way that does not allow them to get into financial ruin. We are alive to our responsibilities as a state, and that's why, so today, we've moved away from having one tertiary hospital to having three. One private, two public, one owned by the state and one owned by the federal government. We have about 22 secondary care facilities, all under different levels of renovation. We have about 329 primary health care facilities, 177 of them classified as the 1 PHC per ward, in line with the National Primary Health Care Development Agency's primary health care 1 PHC per ward.
Number one, the NMA still has a lot of work to do. We still need to continually come out, be in the front seat of healthcare delivery in Ekiti State. We should be able to dictate the pace and look at how to engage all the sectors, vis-a-vis the healthcare delivery in Ekiti State. And we need to also continue to partner with the government. The problem we have now is the issue of brain drain, which has continued unabated. And the solution to this brain drain is to improve the welfare.
We hope also that infrastructure-wise, things will be done, things will be improved better. The equipment that have been provided will be well utilized and maintained.
I want to see more private, institutions, incursions into, of private-public partnership, even into the existing public institutions. Because if you look at the advanced societies, the health in those advanced societies are privately driven. You have private institutions with endowments, with things. You have health insurance for people. So these are things I want to see in the next 25 years.
I think at this stage of Nigerian history particularly, this is a very challenging time. This is a time where we're losing our best hands to other countries, the massive brain drain. We can see a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of medical practitioners leaving the country. I think we should begin to look at, one, a major restructure of the system. We need to call ourselves together. We need to understand what leadership and governance is in the health sector. We need to have high-level engagement, enough of politicizing the health sector, enough of setting profession against one another. I think we need to revert back to where we're coming from.
let us look at the secondary facilities in this state. Most of these facilities are presently being manned by maybe 1 or 2 doctors, which should not be so. So the government needs to, employ more doctors in the service of the state.
Irrespective of the challenges, monetarily or otherwise, the financial situation within the country, the diminished financial situation within the country, we still believe that Ekiti State NMA and doctors will still be committed and have the sense of belonging, that this is our state and that it must progress. We must take care of our own people.
But for me, I want to see, first of all, NMA, that also not only rely on government for the welfare of its members, exactly, but also take the front seat, exactly, the front row in terms of advancing, internal policies and practices that will also, take care of the welfare.
There is nothing wrong in having policies and plans. I am all for Health Summit, but it has to be backed up by action, not just action of the farm fair or holding the summit, but to say that these are the measurable timelines, measurable projects that we are going to get from this thing. Unless such summit produces such a document that will be followed, in my own experience of a few years in government and observing from outside, it may not be well in trouble.
My hope that future generations will leave Ekiti NMA better than they find it.
Yes, I think there is need for NMA to get their acts together, especially when it comes to demanding their rights from government. They should come together, and especially I know that there are different bodies in NMA now, the Association of General and Private Medical Practitioners, NAG, MDMPN, MDCAN, and so on and so forth. But the senior umbrella and the chief umbrella there is the Nigerian Medical Association. So that should be the talking body for all the other associations in NMA.
Well, we think by continuing to struggle to pressurize government to bring healthcare delivery to the affordable level to every citizen, then the struggle by the NMA is not yet over until we are able to achieve affordable healthcare delivery, which is probably what the NMA should be most worried about. Your assignment is to improve the healthcare delivery and you don't have enough personnel, you don't have enough facilities.
If you can have the unity, the kind of unity we had in the past, if you can still imbibe that and not that kind of unity, I know we will do more. I know Ekiti State NMA will be better.
We as leaders also have the responsibility to make sure that the welfare of members of the association, as well as all other members of the healthcare team, is better taken care of. So advocacy will continue, both at the level of the association and at the level of the management, both the hospital management and the boards of management, as well as the ministry.
There's a program, the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, through the Primary Healthcare Agency and the Health Insurance Scheme, that is reaching out to the pregnant women and children under 5. That is to reduce child and maternal mortality and morbidity. And funding has been coming in, registrations have been going on. So I believe that the government can partner with NMA, and NMA also work in synergy with the government so that they know how these programs work, so that the policymakers at the Ministry of Health, the HMB and other health sector, we can all form a synergy, work together as one.
But I could remember the elderly ones, Dr. Tekalu, late Dr. Tekalu, Dr. Fagbeiro. I could still remember Dr. Mawaye, he's still around now. Dr. Teniola is now your chairman in Exut. He was the former secretary in Ondo State NMA around 1993 or so. I can't remember now. He's still around. You might be able to know one or two things. Dr. Oguntoye, Professor Sanyanao, very good people. Dr. C. Ayeni, the first chairman. He was the chairman in Ondo State. He started as the first chairman here in continuation of his regime then. We all gathered together and we were struggling with it before men like Dr. Adeujo came in. So they all came in and we felt that we should accommodate them. So, but as at this time, we were more in number than all the other groups, that is those working with the state government. It came to a time whereby we felt that we shouldn't dominate, and we were lucky that we created zones, and that also helped us in maintaining a sense of balance.
We had a very robust relationship with the federal, with the NMA National then, and we were always very proactive. In fact, before we receive any circular then, the state government immediately will start engaging the state government on implementation. And our engagement is usually a very serious one. And we had good audience with the state government then. Like I said, there could be some areas of disagreement here and there. At times we judge, at times there are some strikes in between. But at least the government listened to us.
I must say that health infrastructure, particularly post-COVID, has expanded quite appreciably. I think what we need to invest in now in the health sector is human resource. The hospital buildings, the equipment will not do the job. We need to have the right mix in the right quantities. We should not overlook having the right health human resource that we need now. If we keep pumping money into infrastructure and equipment, it's not going to address the issues. I will challenge the community. I know that, particularly this environment, there are doctor-seeking communities. If you don't see a doctor, you don't want to come to the health facilities. On the part of NMA, I think we should improve on our health advocacy. We should let people know what services we have to render, where they are available, and the benefits of the community accessing them. Government also needs to ensure that this is available as per need. I know that we're doing quite a bit around health insurance. I think people have to be accountable for their health. Health can never be free. We need to cost what healthcare really is and let people participate in paying for their health.
Well, as things are now, the economy of the country is really bad, and most of the doctors, are checking out of the country. So I think the government needs to revive or revitalize our economy, so that doctors can be well remunerated and salaries can be more regular, because these are the things discouraging doctors from working in government facilities. By the time a doctor works for a number of months and salaries are not regularly paid, they get discouraged and we want to move out.
In April 2016, we had a very sad event, that shook the foundation of the NMA, even at the national level, not just Ekiti alone. We lost 7 heroes of NMA Ekiti.
The best of our best were at that time inside that vehicle, and we lost a lot of them.
On their way to the national, AGM of the Nigerian Medical Association. It was a really sad day.
I feel a lot of pain because I think it's a loss we should not have had at all.
6 of our members died, as were doctors, including the driver, making it 7. So that's why we call it Ekiti 7. Some call it Ekiti 6+1, but it was all 7 lives that were involved. And in that same accident, 6 of our members survived.
We were going then with 12 doctors and a driver was driving the vehicle. Unfortunately, between Abuja and Kaduna, we had a bus tire and the vehicle somersaulted several times over and over again before it came to a stop. And when it eventually came to a stop, unfortunately, we had lost a lot of our colleagues. Some of them died on the spot, and some died where they were trying to take them to the hospital for care.
I salute the commitments and the heroic commitments of the Ekiti 7 that we lost. It may have evolved a more interactive leadership from us, because each time I see an NMA team now, it flashes through my mind. These people travel the coast, travel the air for us. I mean, what people see are the results. They do not see the sleepless nights. They do not see what goes on. So for me, it's made me to respect the leadership the more. It's made me to insist that we should give them the minimum or the maximum comfort in office so that we do not have to travel on insecure path.
That's April 24. Because anytime it's April 24, it's been a sorrowful moment. All we continue to pray for is that God should continue to console all the families of the departed.
Ekiti 7 is simply a disaster that befell our association. It's a sore point in the history of NMA Ekiti.
We remember them now, and we remember them always. And we pray for the families left behind, that God will continue to sustain them, that God will be with them, that the labor of love of their principals, those ones that died, will never be in vain.
I would like to, of course, appreciate the work that NMA Ekiti branch has been doing over the last 25 years. Indeed, we are all members of NMA, having passed through medical school at some point. The role of NMA, particularly in Ekiti, in ensuring that we're able to improve health outcomes and provide services that benefit all, cannot be understated. We must appreciate the members, but also the entire association and its executive, led by Dr. Kayode Arayibi. I wish you all the very best, and I look forward to even more collaboration between the government and the NMA as a whole. All the very best, and congratulations again.
I congratulate all the doctors in Ekiti State on this 25th anniversary. It's our celebration.
As we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the existence of Nigerian Medical Association in Ekiti State, we hope and believe that in the next 25 years, we will also be there to also celebrate.
And I wish all of us the best in the future, where we're going to have more richer NMA in Ekiti State.
Next 25 years, NMA Ekiti, I see a more reformed secretariat. I see a more reformed association.
I wish myself and every other member of the association a very wonderful time as we do this celebration.
So I congratulate all my colleagues for this 25th anniversary. It's a long time we have been coming. This is another way we are getting it right.
I want to congratulate NMA Ekiti State on our 25th year anniversary. It's been a wonderful journey that we've been in existence for 25 good years. God has been so good to us. Although we had our challenges and hurdles all the way, but God has given us a reason to smile again. So we are indeed very grateful to God for all the members, for the leadership, for our SEC members. I want to congratulate each and every one of us.
The 25th anniversary NMA Ekiti.
I want to congratulate Dr. Aribi and the members of NMA Ekiti chapter on occasion of 25th anniversary. I congratulate you. Thank you all for the good work you've been doing. Thank you to all the past chairmen. We pray that NMA Ekiti moves higher in Jesus' name.
Congratulations to all distinguished members of NMA, the SEC members, the affiliate leaders, the SOC, our elders, everybody for this 25-year Silver Jubilee anniversary. I wish us greater years ahead with exploits in our individual chosen field. Happy celebrations.